Hey there. Welcome to Toy Talk with Mike and Chad, episode 82. Is that what we said?
82. Yeah.
82. I'm Mike.
I'm Chad.
And the toys that we're going to talk about today, I think it's going to be another miscellaneous episode. You didn't bring any toys with you.
I haven't bought any toys.
No new toys?
No new toys. The last new toys I have are the ones that we used for the last video, which was probably about a month ago now.
Right. And we have a G.I. Joe episode to do.
Yeah.
So I was kind of waiting for you to get your own versions of Xandar and Leatherneck.
Yeah.
You haven't got those yet?
No, they're still waiting to be shipped.
All right. So that's pending. I might go ahead and just do that one solo.
Yep.
By the way, I think, did we talk about these in an episode not
Yes.
long ago? Yeah. So I'm treating myself to a Rev, which is an alcoholic beverage that most people make fun of me for drinking, but as you can see, they're kind of a nice, radiated blue. They're delicious.
It's not like limoncello,
No.
which we had the last time we were filming.
Yeah, right. That was a while ago. Because I've put out, 3 episodes since you were here. But yeah, last time you were here, we were drinking some of that limoncello, which was pretty rough. Rougher than I anticipated.
I love the comments in the video. It was like, oh man, that looks rough.
It was.
Pretty much everyone commented
a
on
lot stronger than I remembered from the previous time that I had it. But anyway, so I do have some miscellaneous toys we can talk about. But anything else you want to talk about toy-wise before we get into that?
Maybe Jada Toys again, because they just announced Scooby-Doo action figures, and I'm a huge fan of Scooby-Doo. Loved Scooby-Doo when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So they're putting out Scooby,
of course,
and they're putting out the classical, Frankenstein-looking guy, and the Mummy.
Okay.
I was pretty excited for those, so I did pre-order.
And I assume the rest of the gang is...
The gang should make an appearance. Yeah, that was just wave 1.
Will you buy a mystery machine?
Yep. 100%. Now, hopefully it's not like a full-scale...
Like a turtle van
type thing, because I don't have the funds for that.
Well, how big are the figures? 6-inch, 5-inch?
They're 6-inch.
Okay. So are they... Because I would say their Street Fighter figures are probably in the 5.5-inch range. Would you say the Scooby-Doos are...
They're probably the same.
In the same scale? Because if you had to picture a van to sit 5 Street Fighter figures plus
huge.
A dog...
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be at least a little big. But their figures are reasonably priced, so hopefully their vehicles are too.
Yeah. If they decide to put one out.
Yeah. Which, since you bring up the Scooby-Doo figures, because those were revealed at Toy Fair, right?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so we haven't really talked much about Toy Fair. So that is the big toy expo that's really intended for retailers, where all the toy manufacturers every year basically show their product for the coming year, or at least next 6 months or so. It's always an exciting time for toy collectors like ourselves to see all the new reveals. So, other than Scooby-Doo, was there anything else Toy Fair you wanted to talk about?
No, I didn't really pay much attention. I've been kind of avoiding social media lately and just focusing on myself, because there's not so much good news going on in the world today, depending on where you are watching this.
I don't think anywhere. I don't think it's good news anywhere.
I don't want to be political on this, so that's as much as I'll say. I've just been kind of hiding in my own little cocoon lately, focusing on growing my new business and promoting that, and that's the extent I've used social media for. I haven't even really gone on to purchase anything, and that's why some of my toys are slowing down, and I've had to cancel 6 things in the last week. Because I don't know if they're going to end up shipping from Big Bad Toy Store with tariffs, if those are still on. So it's a real big mess. It's always a hard decision to, cancel something you're looking forward to. But I just have to hope that I can get it down the road.
Yeah, just as a reminder, we are Canadian. And so right now, Trump has been threatening tariffs. And it'd be one thing if he just put them on and they were something we had to deal with. but it's this constant back and
Back and
forth.
forth.
They're on, they're off, they're on, they're off. And where we do pre-order a lot of stuff, it's very hard to know. Or like if I buy something today, but I don't ship it, until
The 3 month
three
deadline.
months from now when it actually releases, am I going to have to pay an extra 25% and a tariff? And
Because we already get screwed big time with customs stuff, right? So I don't want to add an extra 25% on top of that, and then a $30 figure turns into like $100 figure.
Yeah, things are already. It's already expensive enough to ship stuff up from the United States. We complain about it a lot, but the conversion rate right now, I think our dollar is like $1.46 for every. Like, I usually, when I'm doing calculations, I go with $1.40, but lately it's been even higher than that. So basically, we pay $1.46 for every dollar that we spend, and then we get dinged usually with customs fees, and the shipping is expensive to Canada. So yeah, every time I buy a figure from an American website like Big Bad Toy Store, it always it hurts way more than you realize at the time when you're looking at the American website, and it's like, oh, this figure's only $24.99. That's an easy buy, but then it ends up costing us like $65 when all is said and done, and it sucks. Which brings me, this isn't really Toy Fair related, but I collect to some degree. I have a good collection of them, of Mythic Legions figures, which are these, swords and sorcery type figures. It's an original toy line made by the toy company Four Horsemen Studios. They're really great. They're amazing looking figures, but I've said multiple times that I think I'm going to try and stop buying them, because as cool as they are, I don't have any nostalgic attachment to the characters. And when times are tight, it's like I'd rather have a Spider-Man figure that I look at and I'm thinking like, it reminds me of all the good times I've had reading Spider-Man comic books and watching Spider-Man cartoons. When I get a Mythic Legions figure, even though it's clearly a better, more detailed, more accessories, it's a better figure than the Spider-Man. I just look at it and it doesn't spark that same joy in me. So for that reason, I've been thinking I'm going to stop buying Mythic Legions. But then they keep
putting out these awesome.
Yeah, the figures are always so awesome, and I'm always like, maybe just one more, maybe two more. Anyway, they announced a while ago that they wanted to do a dragon figure. That is currently now, so they finally launched it. I think it launched either on Toy Fair weekend or maybe a couple of days afterwards. But it is a dragon to scale with their 6-inch figures, and this thing is huge. It's about the size of two of my dogs, like side by side. And it's tall. Anyway, and this thing, it sounds bad enough in American dollars. Like, to buy this plastic dragon, it's $550 American. And then there are add-on sets. So if you want to get the full spread out wings, because it comes with wings that are kind of folded up as if it was walking on land, but if you wanted to get its big wings spread out, that's a separate add-on set for 150 American dollars. And then it has an extended longer neck with an open mouth with a big long flame effect. That's also an additional set for $150. So even in American dollars, it would cost $850 to buy the whole thing. In Canadian, that, do the math. What did I say? It's almost $1, $1.50 for every dollar. So
be at least $1,200 plus
the shipping. I've seen other people complain, in Canada, saying I wanted to buy this thing, but when I put it in my cart, it calculated my shipping at $300.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at $850 plus $300 shipping, we're talking, this thing's going to cost me $1,700 or something
for a huge piece of plastic,
for a big plastic dragon, and it looks incredible. I hope it gets funded. But there's a part of me that kind of hopes it doesn't, because I almost don't want it to exist. I'm like, if it doesn't exist, then I don't have to constantly want it. But if they make it, and they only make so many, for years I'll be looking at eBay, being I wonder if that thing will ever drop in price. Could I ever get one? It's super cool, but I can't afford that, man. That's crazy for a toy.
Yeah, and then you got to factor in customs. What are they gonna ding you for there?
And possibly tariffs.
So it's it's unfortunate. Like I had to cancel some DC Multiverse figures.
Mm.
There was a set of 4 skeletons. I think they were called the Graveyard Skeletons or
That was
something.
Mythic Legions, wasn't it?
Yeah. I canceled those. A lot of stuff that went into my pile of loot I had to return, which I also hate doing it as much as you do, but
Yeah.
you know, I got to look out for me right now, and
You do.
that's unfortunate. So I hope I can get them at a later date. I've made a list of all the figures I've had to cancel, and we'll see.
Yeah, and I don't know if you'll find it with those figures, but we see it every year. Like come November, December, a lot of toys that we bought throughout the year are all on sale at Christmas time. It's usually Hasbro stuff. I don't think you'll find Four Horsemen stuff on sale necessarily, but maybe some of the DC Multiverse.
Which I'm hoping, now that Mattel has the license, although it's not supposed to start till 2026, I'm hoping they kind of phase out McFarlane and put those toys on sale or like a discount clearance.
And that's the other big news, probably the biggest news that came out of Toy Fair this year, which we talked a little bit about off camera.
Yeah.
But Todd McFarlane has had the license to make DC superhero action figures for the past 5 years, and he has made a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And you were a big time collector of them for a while. You kind of whittled, you kind of weaned off of it a little bit. But anyway, that license is now going back to Mattel, where it was before McFarlane had it. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, for me, because McFarlane figures have been on like a downhill spiral for me as a collector.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool to see it as maybe a stepping off point. But now I'm curious, like, oh, what's Mattel going to do with them? So am I going to get sucked in again?
Starting from scratch with Mattel.
Start with scratch from Mattel. Like, what is going to happen here? I think it's good in some ways. I'm more curious than anything.
Yeah. I'll be honest, like, when McFarlane took on the license, I was not happy about it. Mm-hmm. Because even though I don't consider myself a big-time DC collector, I am a little bit of a DC collector. And I probably had a collection of about 60 DC figures, which might sound like a lot to some people, but when you look at the amount of Masters of the Universe figures I have, and right over here I've got Transformers, we've got hundreds. Marvel Legends are right in front of me here on this wall here. I've got probably about 800 of them. So 60 DC figures is a relatively small collection.
It's a piece of the pie, a small piece of the pie.
So when Mattel was making them, and even before them was DC Direct, which those are the figures I actually preferred. I wasn't super keen on Mattel stuff, but those figures were all on the same scale. So if I bought a Mattel figure, I could still display it with my DC Direct figures. So my collection was slowly growing over a length of time. And then McFarlane came in, and I didn't really care for the figures when they first came out. Plus, they were 7 inches tall.
Yeah,
they were taller. They didn't blend in with any of my old DC figures, which kind of pissed me off. And I just thought the torsos were too long and the legs were too long. I didn't like the proportions he was doing. And then
with the earlier toys, once I started unpackaging them, because I have a space issue at my apartment. When I started unpacking them, they were really brittle, and some of them, the articulation sucked, and like joints were falling off, things were falling off.
Yeah.
In the package, I forget which one it was. It was one of the Superman figures, where his arm was completely out of the socket in the package when it was shipped. So it's like, you're paying all this money for figures, and I know it's not, strictly McFarlane that this happens, but when you're paying a premium for a toy, because he's like gradually increased his price point over the last 2 years significantly.
Yeah,
I remember when they used to be $24.99, and now some of them are retailing for like $47.99.
Yeah.
So when you're paying that kind of money, you don't want to see a piece of junk. You want a nice toy, and I know we talked about this before, so I'll stop it there. But
yeah. But see, the thing for me actually is, so not only does he do the 7-inch DC Multiverse figures, which weren't necessarily my cup of tea, but he also does the like 5-inch or 4-inch superpowers line, which I really like. And it's grown quite a bit for me. Like, it's a nice little collection I have now. I've got multiple vehicles for it. Like, I'm going to talk about this in another episode, but if you can just pick that up for a sec. Like, I just got the Black Manta's C-Sub. Like, it's just a fun, like, this wasn't super expensive. It's a fun little toy. Like, I really like DC, and the fact that the figures are affordable and they don't take up a lot of space on a shelf. This was a fun collection to collect. Except I feel they've only scratched the surface. Like, they've done so many different versions of Batman and Superman. You can put it down if you want. But like, they haven't done characters like Green Arrow and Hawkman. Like, there's a lot of core characters they haven't got to yet. And knowing McFarlane is going to lose the license, I think there's a lot of hope that McFarlane will be able to continue his superpowers line, perhaps, and that could happen, but probably won't. But yeah, I'm really bummed to see it go, because now it just feels
incomplete.
It feels very incomplete. Like, they were never going to do every character I wanted. No toy line ever does every character I want. But at least the like core members of the Justice League, like a Martian Manhunter, they hardly did any villains. There's no Lex Luthor. There's no Joker. Like, yeah, you need some of those main characters. So I'm sad to see it go. But that aside, I'm also... You said multiverse is kind of winding down for you. If anything, I kind of find it was kind of ramping up for me a little bit. I'm liking more and more of what I'm seeing in the 7-inch multiverse line.
It's because they're starting to work with the obscure figures.
Well, some of my favorites, because a constant criticism McFarlane gets is that he makes way too many Batmans and way too many Superman. Yeah. But ironically, some of my favorite ones recently are Superman and Batman. Like, in an episode, I think, was it maybe just the last one we did, or 2 episodes ago, I talked about my Christopher Reeve Superman.
Yeah.
So that was a Superman, and it's 2 versions, the good and the bad versions of Superman from the Christopher Reeve movie, and I loved those things. Like, those are potential for my toy of the year. Like, they were great. Last year I also got like Ragman and Cassandra Cain Batgirl, and they were very cool. They've got wired capes now. Like, that soft goods cape really adds a lot to his figures, where he used to do molded plastic.
Which was a pain in the ass trying to get out of the packaging.
Yeah. And actually, that's maybe a good segue for us to move on to some of my toys that I've got recently. Because I've got a few multiverse figures here. So first off, I'll talk about this guy. I went into Toys R Us the other day. We still have Toys R Us in Canada, but probably not for long because they suck. Mm-hmm. The prices are ridiculous in there. Like,
add $10 onto any normal retailer.
Yeah. Like, I buy a lot of my figures here in Canada at GameStop. Mm. And they're a smaller retailer. You'd think they'd have to charge more than, Toys R Us. But no, like, Toys R Us is more than even the comic book specialty shops. Like, it's crazy. But I was in there the other day, and I did pick up a figure. It was a little overpriced, but not that much. But I got this Batman. Mm-hmm. Again, so even though he makes a lot of Batmans, I saw this one on the shelf, and I was like, man, that looks like a good Batman.
I canceled that one. So I'm really jealous right now.
Now, it doesn't have a wired cape.
Nope.
But this is based off of Todd McFarlane's artwork.
Yeah.
And my favorite DC figures are when they do versions of specific artists. Yeah. Because Marvel Legends has never really done that. But it was a common practice for like DC Direct. So like, I have a bunch of DC figures based on Ed McGuinness's artwork.
Yeah.
Darwin Cooks, Amanda Connor, Jay Lee. And this is based on Todd McFarlane, who's one of my all-time favorite artists. He never drew Batman very much, but there was like a Spawn Batman crossover in the 90s. And I just think that's a damn cool Batman.
It's definitely got some weight to it, too.
Yeah.
The only annoying thing is, like, there's no head articulation.
None at all? Is it?
No, like his neck. I don't want to play with his neck, but it sounds like it can move sideways, but there's, like, no actual articulation in the head. Yeah,
and I haven't fiddled around with it too much. Like, he can move his head up and down, like, kind of, because it seems like the only socket is here on his neck. So, not the head itself. So, yeah, it can turn a little bit. The cape kind of hinders it. But like, not only like I can tell this is based on McFarlane.
Yep.
So it's got his unique style, but it's also a classic outfit.
Yeah.
Like if this was the only Batman figure I had on my shelf,
You'd be happy.
People wouldn't go up and be like, "Why does that Batman look so weird?" And I'd be like, "Oh, it's based on a particular artist." Like, no, this looks like a perfectly fine classic Batman in his blue and gray. You know, the yellow circle. He's got the undies outside of his pants. He's perfect. Like, yeah, maybe the articulation's a little limited. And if you really want to nitpick, he still has pin joints and all that sort of stuff. So, and yeah, that big solid rubber cape definitely would hinder playing with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you wanted to sit him in a Batmobile and everything, that wouldn't work. But as far as a Batman that's going to stand on my shelf looking cool,
10 out of 10.
Yeah, he definitely looks cool when he stands there. So yeah, very, very cool. This is another one that when it first went up for sale, I was really tempted to buy it and I didn't. And then it dropped in price a lot. However, that was a little bit of an illusion. So basically, McFarlane did a really nice contemporary version of Martian Manhunter.
Yes.
So some people want him in his classic. Martian Manhunter often wears like little red shorts and bare legs and all that sort of stuff. I have a figure based on that look from DC Direct. But I really like the kind of more modern interpretation with the full pants.
Yeah. So
they did a version of that, and I was seeing it around probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. It looked really cool. His green skin, he's got kind of a, I think it was
blackish and red.
Yeah, maybe some purple in there. I don't know, but it was a cool looking outfit. But I kept passing on it. I'm like, I don't really need it. I already have a really cool Martian Manhunter figure from DC Direct. But then Big Bad Toy Store, the website where we buy a lot of our toys, they had an exclusive, I don't know if they call it black and white version, but it's like a black and white with one color highlight.
Which was the red. And I think it was $15 or something, wasn't it? American?
Yeah, that's the thing. So initially on Big Bad's website, I think it was $39.99 American. And I was like, ooh, that's $40 American, which is really more like 55 Canadian. I can't justify it. Anyway, around Christmas last year, it went down to 15 American dollars. And I was like, well, come on, I got to get it now for 15 bucks. But that was really more like close to like, say, 25 bucks. And then the shipping and the customs. This figure and still ended up costing me about 50 Canadian dollars. So it wasn't cheap. Hold on, my phone's been buzzing. I'm going to have to check. See who, I don't know if my brother's getting a hold of me or something. Yeah, Doug. All right, my brother Doug, I'm glad he was able to get Crystal Ball.
Nice.
He's just letting me know. So yeah, there was a G.I. Joe figure, Crystal Ball. He was an exclusive to Walmart because Walmart just had their Collector Con last week, like a couple of days ago. And I often do the buying for me, for you, and for my brother. And when I went to Walmart Collector Con's website, they only limited me to 2 crystal balls. So I bought yours and mine, and I was like, well, Doug, better get him fast because these things tend to sell out quick. So I was texting him, and I was calling him, and I hadn't heard from my brother for 2 days. And I was like, well, I don't know. Anyway, so earlier today, I finally got a hold of him. And he's like, you've been calling me? And I'm like, yeah, do you want to get this crystal ball pre-ordered or what? And he didn't know about the Collector Con and everything. So then he said he was trying to put it in his cart, and he was like, it wouldn't work, and he couldn't check out with it. And I was like, I don't know, man. Anyway.
I relate to that. Typical stupid Walmart.
Yeah, he just texted me to say he was able to get Crystal Ball. So there you go. Speaking of Walmart, so again, we're kind of digressing here, but here's an annoying thing about Walmart. So months and months ago, I pre-ordered a Transformer from them. It was Gears in his like vintage toy colors, if you remember us talking about that. So I pre-ordered it from Walmart, and it said shipping January 8th. So this was probably back in like November when I bought it. So I bought it, and then January 8th came and went, and I think I got an email that said this figure has been delayed. The new date is like February 8th or something. And then February 8th came, and I got another email that said, this figure is delayed. We don't know when it's coming. And I was like, well, that's annoying. And then I happened to be on Walmart's website a couple of weeks, like maybe a week after that, looking for something else. And it popped up on my suggested, like, you might also want to buy this. and it was Gears, and it said in stock, arrives at your house in 2 to 3 days. And I'm like, okay, well, I want this toy. It's already like more than a month late of when it was supposed to come. I'm like, I'll just buy this one again, get it shipped to me in 2 to 3 days, and I'll cancel the other one whenever it shows up. I know. So anyway, I ordered it, and it said, we got your order. It will arrive this Wednesday. And I was like, great. And then it was saying, like, looking at the tracking, it was like, shipping soon, going to be ready on Wednesday. And I was like, all right. And then Wednesday came, they're like, this is delayed indefinitely. We don't know when it's coming. And so I was like, well, then I tried to cancel one. It's like, you cannot cancel these. You have to wait till it's in your hand, and then you can go into the store and cancel it. But it's just like, I obviously wouldn't have pre-ordered another one if the website, because
in stock now.
Yeah, it says it's in stock and will arrive in 2 to 3 days. Because I kind of figured, well, maybe the one I ordered months ago was like lost in the post office, maybe because of the tariff thing that was happening right around that time. It got put on a shelf, and so I was like, I'll deal with that when it comes. But if they already have some other ones in stock, I'll get that one now. But it obviously was never in stock, so I don't know why their stupid website said that.
I still have a fucking rock and roller
still
on my account. It won't let me refund it.
Yeah,
because Walmart, same thing happened. It's delayed, and then
you'll probably never get it
indefinitely. Well, here's the annoying thing. Again, they won't let you cancel it. So I'm basically screwed out of $35 because I can't get that back if they're not sending it. And I physically was in Walmart and saw it on the shelf, and I'm like, what the hell? So I tried to see if I could get this one instead, but no, because it was purchased online. That's nothing to do with us. Can't do it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So you screwed me out of $70 plus tax, and I'm only getting one of them.
Well, I don't know what happened with you, but I will say, at least in devil's advocate for Walmart, I'm pretty sure they haven't charged me for either of the Gears. I think it was like, we'll charge you when it ships. So since neither of them have shipped, I don't think I've seen the charge show up on my pending transactions a couple of times, thinking it was going to charge, but then it didn't. So I don't think they've taken any of my money. So even if I find this Gears figure at GameStop and I buy them,
you still can't cancel.
I won't cancel them, but maybe they'll never show up. Because your rock and roll figure from G.I. Joe Classified, that's been a year or more, right?
It's been 2 years.
So that's probably never coming.
No.
So yeah, maybe my Gears will never come and I'll just forget about it. But if they do eventually show up in the mail, I will go and I'll refund them and whatever. Anyway, enough about that. Back to Martian Manhunter. That's what we were talking about. So anyway, I definitely overpaid for him because he's not like one of my favorite characters. I would not have paid $50 for this if I saw it in a store. But because I saw that $15 price, I kind of got roped into it. But it's hard to complain too much because I think he's awesome.
He is pretty cool. I'm, again, jealous I didn't get him.
Yeah.
He was an option down at like the bottom of the screen for months.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, $15, but I wish I would have done it.
And he came in a really
nice,
like overly nice box, really. It's like, it's an all black box. You open it, it has a sleeve, you slide off, and then he's in this nice like custom foam or whatever.
And he has a nice display base too.
Yeah, he has this really like wide, nice black display base with the DC logo on it. He has one of those trading cards that comes with a little display base that says Martian Manhunter,
which he seems to include now with all of his multiverse figures.
Yeah, I don't need a display base for a trading card. I'm not going to display a trading card on my shelf, but like, anyway, it's a nice figure.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the reason why I waited and kind of pulled the trigger on the black and white over the green one is just because where he's not one of my favorite characters, and even though it's a different outfit than the figure I have over there on my shelf already, because that one has the classic outfit with the little shorts.
Yeah.
I just kind of felt like I don't need two Martian Manhunters, but the fact that this guy is gray skinned and he's got the kind of the black and white design, I thought, well, that's different enough. I can justify that a little bit better. So yeah, I do think it's great.
But yeah, he's pretty cool. I'm, again, jealous.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Now I got another two DC Multiverse figures, which I think I told you I got.
Yeah.
These were both figures when they first came out. I was kind of like, those are kind of cool.
Down the road, yeah.
But when they came out here, they were like $30. I saw them at GameStop several times, and I was like, I don't need to spend $30 on these things. But they were on Amazon the other day for like $15, and that's Canadian. So it's like, and I get free shipping from Amazon. So it's like, all right, $15,
sold.
Sold. So the first one here is Ambush Bug.
Yeah, I had to also cancel him.
Now this is one of the kind of lamest figures I've maybe ever bought. Like, there's no detail on him whatsoever.
No, he's just a giant piece of green plastic.
Yeah, he's just a naked green guy. He looks like those guys that dress up at hockey games and stuff. You know, it's like a Halloween costume with the green suit with just no features. Now his face is fun. He's got antennas and he's got bug eyes. He does have a stupid accessory of like a doll that he carries with him. I think he might have had an extra set of hands or something too, but yeah, he's just such a weird character that I can't believe there's actually an action figure of, and there probably never will be again. Because Mattel and DC Direct, who had the licenses for years before they never touched Ambush Bug.
No.
So I thought, if I don't get this guy now, I don't think Mattel will ever do him in the future or anything. So, any other thoughts?
Is that a mustache?
I don't think so.
Or is it like just part of his nose thing?
Yeah, I think it's just like maybe a lip.
I just look at him and see a mustache, but that's kind of funny. I'm sorry if that ruined it for you.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But like, do you know anything about this guy?
Very little.
Me too, to be honest with you. Like, he sticks in my head because when I first got into comic books at 8 years old, it all started for me when me and my brother Doug, we were staying with my cousin Greg. And Greg had recently got into collecting comic books. And he was like, guys, I love comic books. You should get into this. And he was spreading his comic books out and he was showing us all his little collection, which was probably all in one like short box at the time, but it seemed like he had a ton of them. And after we looked at some of his comic books and we got so excited, we immediately went down to the corner store at the bottom of the street and we bought them off of the spinner rack, you know, that old school style. And we were both drawn to Marvel Comics. So I bought Spider-Man, my brother bought X-Men, and we kind of grew from there. But we stuck pretty close to Marvel. But some of the other books my cousin had was like Gru the Wanderer. Do you know Gru?
Yeah.
Which is like kind of a spoof of Conan. He really liked Gru. And he had Ambush Bug. And I just remember thinking, like, who's this crazy character? I've never heard of him before. And he looked like pretty zany. And I remember kind of flicking through some of Greg's comic books, and he was kind of like Deadpool before Deadpool. Yeah. He would like, I don't know if he broke the fourth wall necessarily, but he was like an absurd character who was kind of like in on the joke a little bit. I think he was supposed to be like kind of deranged.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so I've always kind of had an interest in this character. I don't think he shows up very often, and I can kind of understand why. Most serious writers probably wouldn't want to include him in their comics or anything. But yeah, it's just when I saw this toy was coming out, I was like, that's so weird. Like, I remember him from back in the day. And yeah, I don't know. It just kind of makes me nostalgic for a comic book I never really read. But it just takes me back to that time when I was first introduced to comic books just in general. So anyway, so there's Ambush Bug.
He's pretty cool.
He's a weirdo. And the last DC figure I have here is... So I like Superman. I have collected Superman comic books for various stints over the years. Have you ever... I think you've said before you're not really keen on Superman.
No, I mean, I've read some of them, but I don't collect typically Superman comics.
So, I don't know. I can't get super deep on Superman lore necessarily, but I have encountered probably a lot of his key villains at certain points in time. Like, I've read really good Brainiac stories and Lex Luthor stories, and one of his other characters is Metallo. Is one of his main... So, I've never had a Metallo figure in any of my collections. So when they put out this Metallo figure...
Also canceled.
Yeah, you canceled yours? Yeah. I thought, well, this guy looks cool. I like this toy. But again, I was like, do I like it $30 plus tax enough? And I was like, I don't think so. But then when it was $15, I was like, sure. So here is Metallo. He came with just a display base and I think a little piece of kryptonite for him to hold, because Metallo, if memory serves, he's got like a a kryptonite heart or
Mhm.
something. That's what powers him, or he's got it in his chest. I don't know. But
You know how kids are stupid, right? like
sure,
like younger kids are
yeah.
not fully there.
Mhm.
I when I was younger always confused Metallo with Iron Man because of like the mask on the
Fair.
face and like the thing in there.
He looks to me like Doctor Doom when I see
Yeah,
this. But like to be honest, like when this figure came out, I was like, that looks cool, but I don't really know this version of Metallo because I know him more from his like maybe I think it was probably the '90s, maybe even the '80s. He kind of turned into the
I
Terminator
think it was the
almost.
late.
He was like an exoskeleton with like a human skin on
Yeah,
him, and that's kind of how I think of Metallo. Um, but apparently, this is more his design from his very first appearance, whenever that would have been. I don't know if it was as early as the '60s or maybe even the '50s. I don't know when he first showed up, but so this is kind of a classic look for him. I thought when I saw this figure, like, oh, this must be something modern from the recent comic books that I haven't read. But no, apparently they went way back. Now I don't know if he's went back to this costume in recent years or not, but
I wonder if they're probably not still $15 on Amazon.
yeah, they might. But the thing about this thing is, even though I'm happy just to have a Metallo, because I have a Luthor and I have a Brainiac and I have a Doomsday, I didn't have a Brainiac. So just having him on my shelf makes me feel like, cool, I've got a new character. It helps expand my Superman line. But this is one of those toys where I don't know if he'll release a platinum version later because McFarlane does that with a lot of his toys where he has like a bare bones version and then for an extra 10 or $15 it's like the chase figure or the platinum version. Because this toy is wasted with this shitty paint job.
Yeah, all red
Like
with green.
look at the detail on his back
Yeah,
and
it's
his
ugly.
legs.
It's ugly.
Like there's all these kind of
They look like cheap Build-A-Figure legs. Is what they look like.
yeah, but you can see like he's got all these kind of like gears and parts below him. He's kind of got like a metal plate on his thigh, but then it's separated from the metal plate on the back of his thigh, and in between it, you can see all this sculpted detail of like wires and buttons and gears, and yet his pants and his feet are just entirely red. Like it looks like he's wearing little footy jammies or something. Like why didn't they had some black or some more greens and like his back is entirely red too and he's got like this elaborate sculpted spine and it's just like why is none of this shit painted? I would have paid more for this if it was painted up nice. So it just feels like a real missed opportunity. And if I was a customizer I'd probably fix this myself, but I'm not a customizer so I'm not about to do that. But I bet there are people out there that made this figure, took it from like a 6 and cranked it up.
Oh, I guarantee you they
cranked
have.
it up to an 11 with a really nice paint job. So there you go.
Nice head articulation on him, at least, though.
Yeah, his head moves nice.
Moves around.
It's not a ball joint, so yeah, you got a 360 movement. But yeah, I think another missed opportunity was like
take off
his chest logo should maybe open and you could put that kryptonite inside of him. That would be cool. But anyway.
Update. Well, we stopped briefly.
Yeah, we did a quick little cut here. Yep.
Ambush Bug is still $15 on Amazon. So
okay. Did you check Metallo too?
I did not, but if Ambush Bug is still,
so you might have these guys next time we talk.
Yeah, maybe.
This thing I understand as a new business owner, you can't really be spending $40 on toys here and there. But at $15, they're almost daring you not to buy. Come on. Anyway, I've got a couple more miscellaneous stuff here. I don't know if we'll have time because we've already been 40 minutes. I don't know if I'll have time to talk about everything here, but here's a quick one. So I buy a lot of reaction figures from Super7, which are the little 5 points of articulation, kind of done in that Kenner Star Wars style. And lately I've been buying some of the. Is he still
$22.38?
Still not bad. But anyway, I got into buying some Sesame Street reaction figures. I don't know how this happened, but it did. So it started off with I just bought one, and then I bought two, and then three. And anyway, now I own about 6 of them, I think, maybe more.
Yeah.
But one of the characters I was not interested in was Bert and Ernie.
Yeah.
Never a big Bert and Ernie fan. I'm sorry. I like the monster characters.
Yeah.
Like when they do a Telly and a Harry and all. Like I like those guys. So like yeah, I didn't mind having Cookie Monster, Oscar the Grouch, and the aliens. Those guys were more my speed. When it comes to some of the more human characters, I'm like not really into it. So I wasn't going to buy Bert and Ernie, but my friend Guy bought me Ernie for
Your
my
birthday.
birthday in January. Which thank you, Guy. I do appreciate it because it is a really nice figure. But now I was like, I have to buy a Bert.
Yeah.
I can't have an Ernie in my collection and not have a Bert. But Bert wasn't anywhere to be found. He wasn't on Big Bad Toy Store. He wasn't on Amazon. He wasn't at my comic shop. So he was on Super 7's website. But to buy from Super 7, I got to pay shipping and customs. And I wasn't going to pay $30 shipping for one $25 figure. So I was like, I have to wait and hope it's still in stock when I actually need to buy some toys from Super 7. So they announced a new wave of Godzilla reaction figures, which I also collect. Now, frugal me, what I try and do is when toys show up like that, I'm like, if I wait a month, they're going to be on Amazon and I can order them without any shipping or, customs fees. But
collector you.
But collector me was like, okay, well, they've got these new Godzillas. I could wait. But if I order them today, the day they came out, I will have them quick. Because Super 7,
they're fast.
I'll have them in like a week. I'm like, I'll have the figures in hand much sooner, and it gives me an excuse to order Bert. So I ordered Bert.
Hey, Bert.
Here he is. He looks great. He came with a pigeon who looks crazed, like a cokehead pigeon.
Yep. We'll call him Koki.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great looking figure for like what these guys are. Like, I'm glad I have him. He's bright. He's happy. And you do like Bert and Ernie, right? You wanted these guys.
I fucking love Bert and Ernie. I had to cancel both of them. And now seeing you with them in hand and my poor yip monsters that I didn't get, I'm just like, don't go down that rabbit hole, Chad. Don't.
They're fun.
I know they are. Stop it.
Yeah.
Hey, Bert.
Picture that guy on your desk at work.
It wouldn't be the weirdest thing on my desk at work.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm happy I got him. So I owe it to Guy for forcing me to buy this thing. But he's cool. Here's a bit of a random one. I don't buy a whole lot of toys from this brand, but I have bought a few. Because I feel like what kid didn't grow up loving dinosaurs? But I grew up in the era of rubber dinosaurs that had no articulation. And so when I was a kid, I would always find a way to work them into my play. Like if I was playing G.I. Joe, Cobra would send them through a time warp and they'd go have to fight my rubber dinosaurs. And I was fine with that. I never thought, I wish my dinosaurs had articulated legs or articulated jaws. It never really mattered to me. I was fine with the big rubber dinosaurs. So when Jurassic Park came out and they started making articulated dinosaur figures, it almost felt like a little weird. Like, why do these guys have all these joints? I don't need them. I kind of like dinosaurs to be rubber. I felt the same way about wrestlers, to be honest. Like, did you have any of those LJN wrestlers when you were a kid? Yeah, so LJN put out wrestlers that were just in one solid pose like this. So some guys look like this, some guys look like this. And you couldn't move them at all. They were just solid chunks of plastic. And we would just bash them together when we played. And then, of course, now they make very articulated wrestling figures, which makes sense. You want wrestlers to be able to do all kinds of moves. But for me, I just could never get into them because it was already ingrained in my head that wrestlers
They're supposed to be hunks of plastic.
Yeah, they didn't need articulation because you want just big, heavy things. So there's this weird mental block where I can't get into modern wrestling figures and I can't get into modern dinosaur figures. But I do occasionally buy them, especially when it's a new dinosaur that I've never heard of. This guy here, I can't even pronounce his name. I don't remember what he was called. But this figure was $9.99 at Walmart the other day. And it's a feathered dinosaur, and he's got these big like sideburn things. And I've never seen a dinosaur with that before. It's kind of like what an owl, like owl ears on him. And yeah, like I can understand why he's 999. He's very limited articulation. His paint job is pretty basic. It's a little bit like Metallo in that they definitely could have painted his claws and it would have enhanced the figure and everything. But I was just excited to get another feathered dinosaur. Even in the Jurassic Park line, they haven't done a whole lot of feathered dinosaurs. And I just kind of get excited to see a new dinosaur. And yeah, this guy had some crazy name. But anyway, for $10, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, pretty cool for $10.
Although his jaw is not articulated. He doesn't open his mouth. Which, even for $10, I think he should open his mouth.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I mean, I belong to the camp of thought that thinks dinosaurs shouldn't have feathers, but I know that's not true.
Well, I don't know what is true or what isn't.
Yeah, I know.
But when that concept came along of a dinosaur with feathers, and now they're saying even like maybe baby T-Rexes had feathers and everything, you're like,
what?
You're like, that's crazy. Because even the dinosaurs I had just in the 80s as a kid, all the dinosaurs, they were like dragging their tails on the ground. And now they say, no, dinosaurs didn't drag their tails like dead weight behind them. They pointed up and helped. And it's just like interesting things like that. Like, it's like a moment in history to have a rubber dinosaur that's like now the scientific community deems incorrect. Same as like, I don't think Brontosaurus is even a type of dinosaur anymore.
It is, but it's not. I know that sounds confusing. I had this conversation with someone before about the Brachiosaur, because they named it wrong, but there's a variation of the Brachiosaur, like very, very small variation, that I think is the Brontosaurus.
Well, yeah, like when I was a kid, and there was basically 5 dinosaurs back then.
Yeah.
It was like T-Rex,
Stegosaurus.
Ankylosaurus, yeah. But yeah, there was not 1,000 dinosaurs, at least not in common knowledge. If you got a dinosaur book from the public library, it had like 10 dinosaurs.
Come see me.
Yeah, he works at the library. They definitely didn't have shit like this.
No.
And like every time there's a new Jurassic Park movie, and they're like, here's a Spinosaurus. And I was like, what the heck? How have I never heard of a Spinosaurus before? Even when the first Jurassic Park movie came out, most people had never even heard of a raptor before. Yeah. And now it's like the most popular dinosaur. And then from the most recent Jurassic Park movie, I bought the toy of the guy with the big long claws, the Therizinosaurus.
Yep.
I've never heard of a Therizinosaurus before.
No.
So they just seem to be making these things up all the time. So I've never heard of this guy. And I do like the idea of the feathers, because I have enough dinosaurs in my collection that don't have feathers. Like, I'd be stoked to get a T-Rex figure with feathers, just because of I think a T-Rex looks cooler without feathers, but I just think it's a cool, the way these toys evolve as the science expands. Like, there's no other toys that happens. Like, my Spider-Man figures haven't changed because they learned something new about spiders or anything. But yeah, the fact that these dinosaur figures, like, of course they wouldn't have made this figure in the 80s because they probably didn't know this species existed in the 80s. And so I just think that's kind of cool. Anyway.
Pretty cool for $9.99.
Yep. I don't know if I told you I bought this guy, but you mentioned Jada before.
Mm-hmm.
We love the Jada Street Fighter figures. You're also buying the Mega Man figures.
Yep. Now Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. When I started buying the Street Fighter figures, I thought, I'm just going to buy my favorite characters. But that quickly went off the rails because the figures are so good. I'm like, I even want the characters I don't like because the toys are so nice. Anyway, this guy has been warming the pegs at our Walmart. This is the only character they have, and they have like 6 of them. It's just one.
Fei-Long.
Fei-Long. Anyway, so I was like, I knew I was going to go get Fei-Long. Like, next time I'm at Walmart, I'll pick them up. And they were $29.99. But when I went to get this guy, I think he was
15.
Yeah, I think it was $15 or something. So I was like, oh, sweet. So yeah, I picked up Fei-Long. So he's kind of the Bruce Lee dude. I think it's pretty obvious he's a knockoff of Bruce Lee.
100% just by the
everything.
Yeah.
Like,
I was gonna say the eyebrows, like
the hair,
eyebrows, the hair,
the face, the clothes, the stance, like everything. He's very Bruce Lee. So
that's so nice.
Did you get him yet?
Not yet, but now that I know he's like $15.
Yeah. He came with a couple of extra hands that were fists, and he also came with a big fireball accessory to replicate his finishing move or his special move. Fuck. Yeah, I know he's nice. So I was set to go buy him for $30. So to give him for half price was great. So yeah, he will join my other. I think 7. I think I have this is my 7th or 8th.
Funny story. I was shopping one day about 2 weeks ago when he was actually in my cart, and then I was like, I can't right now. So I put him back on a random aisle with chips. I was one of those people. I try not to be one of those people, but
it happens.
I didn't want to walk to the other end of the store again.
I do that sometimes too, I'll admit. Now, I hate when people do it with frozen groceries.
Frozen food and put it on a shelf?
Yeah.
Or put stuff from a shelf in the freezer?
Yeah, like I'm in the toy aisle and there's like a steak sitting there and you're like, come on, man. But like, yeah, sometimes I will go buy, because when I go to Walmart, it's the same thing every time. I immediately make a left turn.
Yeah.
Even if I'm bleeding and I'm getting Band-Aids, I'm like,
I go to the toy aisle.
I have to go to the toy aisle before I can go to the Band-Aids. So like, I go to the toy aisle, I look around, and then I go past the electronics, and then I go to like the grocery.
Yeah.
So sometimes I get a little impulsy and I grab something in the toys and the electronics, and by the time I'm going through groceries, I kind of like come to my senses, and I'm like, I don't need the Johnny English trilogy on Blu-ray. I'm gonna put this back, and I just set it up with the cereal boxes or something. So
Cheerio.
Exactly. So there you go, Fei-Long. Yeah, I think I'll try and squeeze in one more. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Marvel Legends that I was gonna maybe try and squeeze into this, but that would probably take too long. And 5 Marvel Legends is probably enough to do a whole episode just on them anyway. So the last figure I'm going to talk about today is a Transformer. Now, it's in a way not very exciting, but in a way I think it's super exciting. Boom. Do you know who this dude is? It's Ramjet.
Yeah.
So, now the reason why he's exciting is because when I was a kid, like in the original 80s Transformers cartoon, there was 6 jets. And they were called the Seekers. So they were kind of like a sub-team within the Decepticons.
Skywarp, Thundercracker, Starscream.
So you got all the non-cone heads.
Yeah, I did.
So there was 3 that were...
Cyclonus.
No. Cyclonus was one of the later ones.
The movie.
Yeah, when some of the guys died, they became...
Right.
Cyclonus. I think Cyclonus was one of the Seekers, or he might have been one of the Insecticons. I can't remember. But anyway, so there was 3 that weren't cone heads. Everybody knows what Starscream looks like. He's got these kind of like, I don't know, vents or something on the side of his head. So in the 80s toy, basically all of the Seeker jets, all 6 of them, had basically the same sculpt. And when you transform Starscream, he had his nose cone pointed up on his head, but then you just folded the nose cone back, and that's how you get those vents kind of on the side of his head. And so that's what him and Thundercracker and Skywarp all looked like. They were the same guy, just different colors. But then they put out another 3 Seekers, and they said, you know what, to differentiate these guys, we just won't tell kids to fold the cone back. You could, just as easily, because it was the same toy. But in the designs, they just kept the cone on the top of his head. And so those characters became known kind of unofficially as the Coneheads. And my favorite Decepticon toy when I was a kid was one of the Coneheads, which was Thrust.
Oh, Thrust.
So there was Thrust, and then there was Ramjet, and there was Dirge.
Dirge.
So I have never, even though I've been collecting Transformers since like 1983, I have never had a full set of 6 of the Seekers proper. Like I've had mixed collections of the Seekers, but one of the things that's fun about the Seekers is that they are kind of all the same mold, and I like that they all look the same, just in different colors. So like even in like my reaction figures, which are just over here, they've done Starscream and they've done Dirge, and I thought, well, surely they're going to repaint this exact figure and just give me the other 4 guys, but they never did, and I don't know if they ever will, and it just seems like That's such an easy thing you could have done, and that would have been my first time owning all six. Because when I started kind of collecting Transformers again as an adult, which began in like 2005, I had a bunch of them in one scale, but then I didn't get some of the figures because they were like store exclusives or something. I couldn't get a Ramjet. So I bought a third party Ramjet, which is like an unofficial Transformer made by a company that isn't Hasbro.
Yeah.
And that Ramjet that I had, he didn't transform into an Earth jet because on Cybertron, before they came to Earth, the Seekers turned into, I forget the word they call it right now, but it's some weird, like, it's basically like a triangle spaceship. And so the Ramjet I have in my collection is not official, plus he turns into a triangle spaceship instead of a jet. And I wouldn't mind having all of them if they all turned into their Cybertronian modes, but I didn't. Instead, all my other guys turned into jets, and Ramjet was the odd man out. And then when they switched scales to like this, because I was talking about the Generations figures, but now I collect the like War for Cybertron trilogy. So I rebought all the other Seekers. So I got Starscream, and I got Thrust, and I got Skywarp. But Ramjet was an exclusive. Him and Dirge were in a 2-pack that you could only get at Target, which we don't have Targets in Canada. So I could never get them. Even on eBay, they were asking crazy prices for them, like $250, $300. And then last year, they released Dirge as a single figure. So I was finally able to get Dirge, and I was like, please, will they release Ramjet as a single figure? And then they released Ramjet, what they call Ramjet version 2, which is him in his Generation 2 colors. So I do technically have a Ramjet, just the exact same toy as this, except he's purple. And I'm like, I don't want purple Ramjet. I want white.
The black and white.
I want the black and white Ramjet from the 80s cartoon. And so I finally have him. And here he is.
He's pretty cool. I like his facial expression. You'll have to do an up-close version of that. He's kind of got that ooh look.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when I pull him out and do a side-by-side with Thrust and Dirge. Sometimes they change the head sculpt, so just to give them different expressions. Yeah. He might be a total repaint of Thrust, and if he is, I don't mind. That's fine. But if they gave him a smile and the other guy a scowl, that's even cooler. I like when they do that. Little changes.
Yeah, he's got a little Jay Leno chin, too.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Thank you. Although, just as a little, if I have to be honest, actually, my cone heads, which I actually have, and I know you can't really see them in there, because you can see I have, over here's my Transformers collection. I've got a square here, that one there where you see those jets up front, those Seekers. That whole square is full of Seekers, because they've added a whole much more Seekers to the collections beyond the original 6. So up front there, I've got a guy called Nacelle, and a guy called Hot Link, and a guy called Acid Storm, and Ion Storm. There's all these guys. And for the cone heads, I have Dirge, Thrust, Ramjet Generation 2, Cloudburst, and Desert Storm, or Sandstorm, I think. And maybe one other. So I think I've got 5 or 6 just cone heads. But these cone heads are from the War for Cybertron trilogy of action figures. There was 3 parts to it. And I believe these guys are from the second part, which was called Earthrise. So it started off as Siege, Earthrise, and then Kingdom. And they all fell under the same umbrella, and the figures were all kind of the same scale. The Kingdom version was supposed to be like a lot more beast characters and stuff, which I'm not really that interested in. The Earthrise figures was supposed to be the Transformers once they came to Earth. And the Siege figures were the Transformers before they left Cybertron. So everything I just said about how finally having everybody all cohesive, all of those non-Conehead Seekers, they actually transform into the Triangle, the Tetra Jets, the Cybertronian modes. So I guess I don't technically have all 6 Coneheads in Earth Jet mode, as I just kind of said I was hoping to always do, but it's good enough. I never transform any of my Transformers, and the non-Coneheads look just like their Earth modes in robot mode. You would never know they transform into Tetra Jets. Yeah. So it still works for me as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, this is a figure that was released like 2 years ago. This is just a re-release, but I was never able to get him. And I'm very excited to have him. it feels like I just kind of completed like a collection within a collection. So
I'm happy for you.
thank you. Okay. So yeah, we're probably at about an hour. So that's probably good.
All right. Shall I sign us off?
Sign us off, man.
All right. Thank you for watching. Sorry it's taken so long to get another video up. I'm pretty busy guy lately with the Taekwondo club and everything.
Yeah.
Now that it's been like a month, I'm just slowly kind of getting back into my routine and hopefully have some more time and toys.
You should do a commercial, and then you could sponsor us, and we could run your commercial.
I could.
There you go.
I'll get Mike to throw a few posters up and yeah. But anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave us comments, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Yep.
Keep collecting.
Cheers.